Back. If you're just tuning in, today we're celebrating Black History Month. And Clyde Thomas is here with me today. She's going to give us a tour of Ms. Walker's house. Clyde, I know you have
The house was built in 1883 by a doctor, a black doctor, for a psychiatric hospital in the local area. And Maggie Walker came to own the house in 1905. She purchased the house in her own name, even though she was married. She eventually added, basically doubled the size of the house in 1922. The house had about 10 rooms, and when she added on to it, it has now 22 rooms. So it's a very large house. This is where Maggie Walker would have spent much of her time. She wrote speeches, lots of speeches, and gave them to African American communities all across the nation. One of her mantras was economic independence. She really believed that economic independence would bring black people on an equal status with the rest of the nation. And so all of her life's work was dedicated to that time. As you know, we're on Lee Street, and during her time, Lee Street was Quality Row. This was where all the prominent African Americans in Richmond lived. If there was a place to live, it was right here on Lee Street. Also on 2nd Street here in Jackson Ward, that was the commercial district for the community, for Jackson Ward. You have the Hippodrome Theater, many stores and restaurants were lining the streets. So this was the center. Jackson Ward was the center of African American life in Richmond, and Maggie Walker was very much a central part of it. Also, as you can see here, right off of her bedroom is a porch, an enclosed porch, which she added on in 1922. Okay. And she would sit on that porch and read and do things like that. And later on in her life, when she couldn't really get around too much without the wheelchair, she sat on the porch and looked around the neighborhood to see what was going on. It was her main way of catching up with things. Also, one of the famous parades of the time period rerouted itself to come down Lee Street so that Maggie Walker could wave to the people in the parade. So that's just how important she was to her community, her bank, her level of influence in the organization she was in. She was really important to the community.
So even when Maggie